welcome to another episode of How Good Are X Weapons. Today we're gonna take a look at Thief. Thief is very interesting. Thief has very cool mechanics with the weapons. Today we want to go over all of them, and as always, this is a video dedicated for newer players that want to learn which weapons are actually used in power builds, which are used in condi builds, but also for veterans that actually want to discuss and build craft on their own. And this is, I think, a very nice series to actually learn how and debate about the Guild Wars 2's weapons. As always, thanks to my dear supporters on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon. And without much further ado, let's jump right in. So with Thief, we will start with the two-handed weapons, because the one-handed weapons will actually have some kind of special mechanics, and we will cover them as well. But let's start with the, so to say, easy and very normal weapons. So we have Shortbow. This is a core weapon. It's very just straightforward. It's a ranged weapon. Has some bleeding application on a lot of, let's say, just condis built in on top of it. You have bleeding here. You can detonate this cluster bomb. You have some nice evades in there. You have a unblockable CC and poison, so it's quite nice in a condi build. But also, and that's the interesting part, even though it doesn't really scale with power that well, I mean, that's not true. Cluster and cluster bomb is actually quite nice. But the other weapon skills are not really that hard hitting. But you can use it on any Thief build because of the 5 skill. The 5 skill is like the bread and butter of this build. It's a teleport that has somewhat of a very low cast time in that case, and it costs 6 initiative in PvE. And it's also very powerful, of course, in PvP and World vs. World. It's just very nice as a disengage tool, or just getting decaps and stuff. And even in PvE, it's extremely strong if you can't use mounts for whatever reason or want to teleport in combat. It's really good. It's not very useful in a lot of PvE builds, because nowadays you have mounts and you don't really need to move fast in combat with a blink, and that's not really typically, if you need to do that, then you would use utility skill and not swap whole weapon, because Shortbow is not a real DPS weapon, it's more of a utility weapon. But I would say Shortbow has a really nice spot in what it can do, and I feel like it's deserving a spot in almost any game mode for a utility weapon, and has some nice damage. It doesn't matter if you're condi or power. And the stealth attack, to mention this as well. So if you're stealthed and use an attack, and the auto attack here, it will has a special effect, and this will be an immobilizing. This is obviously really, really strong in competitive mode, so keep that in mind as well. But overall, I really like the design of it. Then we have Rival. Rival is, so to say, the bread and butter of a Deadeye. You can use it on other Thief builds now as well, but it's a little bit worse. And the damage, it's just a power weapon. It has amazing range, 1500. It's the highest range in the game. And it's really, really good on just power damage. It's extremely strong. A lot of power damage. You can kneel with your 5 skill, and then you actually get movement speed reduction, but your skills will be empowered. So I think this mechanic is really interesting. Previously, it was actually so that you couldn't move at all while you had that, or only dodge. But now you can move a bit. But it's still very interesting. It makes you very slow, but it's very, very strong as well. Crazy damage, piercing as well, and very nice just overall setup. So immobilize, you even have some kind of stealth access and missile block. It's actually really, really good how this weapon plays. It's useful in every single game mode. You can use it in World vs. World as a roamer. You can use it in PvP as some nice damage dealer. And it's even in PvE, it's very useful as some kind of kiter for raid bosses, but also just for long-range damage pressure. It's really good. It's not really played as a condi weapon because it only scales with power, but you can actually make it work on a condi Thief as well, just for the stealth access, but that's not what you typically do. So it's more like it's really a power-based weapon. And I think the design is quite nice. I would say it has its spot, and that's where it will probably forever stay like that. Then we have Staff. This is a melee bruiser weapon that has a lot of damage, just power scaling baseline, a lot of nice attacks. It's quite fast-paced. It has some nice evade baked in, and some nice daze potentially, some blind effects, reflect missiles, and some nice another evade and a leap finisher. So this was a very nice skill back then in PvP and World vs. World, because the scaling was insane. Nowadays it's not that strong anymore. Staff is just a meme weapon there. Typically you use it maybe in some big Zerg fights you can use it, but other than that it's more like a PvE weapon only, and it's power based. So it's used on a Daredevil most of the time, but you can use it in all power based Thieves, but it's power, and it doesn't have any special unique features to it. It's just a very nice hard-hitting power weapon. I feel like maybe they could rework some of the skills to make it a little bit more unique and not that just power-based, but I feel like it's okay to have one weapon that is only used for power damage. I think that makes sense. It's like the Rival just for melee. That's how it is, I would say. A little bit less utility, but still. Then we have Spear on Land. Spear on Land is the most complex weapon in the game, I would say. And that's why I will not go over how it works in detail, because then I would fill the whole video with that. So this is a very interesting design. I really like it. You have some combos that you can set up and then finish with another skill. So the 1, 2, 3 skill are actually flipping through. So they will change with each other. So keep that in mind. But it's really complicated to actually get the rotation down here. But it's a very interesting weapon because of all the skills that are baked into this kit. You actually have crazy damage for condi and power because it's so amazingly scaling, and you can actually set up your weapon skills however you like them, so to say, because of the combo system. You have some nice Defiance breakbar damage, you even have some heal in there, and it's just in the block. It's actually quite nice how this weapon actually plays out, and I think it's, if you're a Thief main, this is very worth checking out. Just for that, it's actually probably worth getting Chante Vials because it's so insane how this weapon changes your playstyle of a Thief. You can play it on a DPS condi build, on a power build. It's really, really good. However, in competitive modes, I would say it's a little bit lackluster. It's too complex to actually hit all of those combos all the time. And even if you hit them, I think it's not the best setup for damage. There are better weapons there. But in PvE, it's amazing. It's really cool design. So I will not go into detail. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a detailed Thief Spear guide. But now let's go to the aquatic weapons. We'll just cover them quickly. The Underwater Spear, I think, is very strong. It's just a power-based weapon with some evades and some blocks in there. And I would say it's a fun weapon to use and quite strong as a power weapon. I would always prefer that one over the Harpoon Gun because the Harpoon is like a ranged, like a rival underwater, but it's quite weak. Doesn't do a lot of damage, has some condis baked in, but it's not that good. And you also have some kind of teleport like the Shadow Step or the Infiltrator Shot. And it's not that crazy good. It's just for mobility that I use it. I would never use it as a DPS weapon. Let's then quickly cover the Shadow Shroud of Specter. So Shadow Shroud is really good. I'm currently on a Specter, so I can see that they also give alacrity. But other than that, it's also very nice just from the baseline damage and healing. It's immense what it can do. I think the Shadow Shroud is one of the best shrouds in the game because you have so amazing utilities. If you compare it to a Necromancer Shroud, it's actually insane how much more utility you get from the Shroud. You have Condi Cleanse, you have damage, you have blast finishers, you have a leap finisher, you have fear, you have barrier, baseline into the kit, you have tethering so that helps your allies around it and the tether target, you have stun, you have stability. It's actually insane how much utility you get with those Shadow Shroud skills. Of course, it's designed like that to help Spectre be worthwhile to play, but it's actually crazy how good the Shroud is. Let's now talk about the Mainhand weapons. So this is where it comes into play that you have to, as a Thief, have Mainhand weapon, and depending on the offhand, you actually get a different third skill. So I will only talk about the actual skills that you get. I will not talk about the, so to say, step skill from the sword, where you have to have no offhand weapon at all to get it, because that's such a big sacrifice to get this that typically it's not worth to get it. And I think no build that is currently played actually uses no offhand just to get to this third skill. So typically you have weapon of mix and match. So let's start with sword. 2 skill is amazing. It's crazy good. It's a teleport and it will immobilize the target if it hits, and you can go back and for 15 seconds after that, and it will also cure conditions. So it's a really nice PvP world versus world skill because you can engage, deal some damage, go back, answer condition, go back in. It's really, really good. And the auto tech even is really, really good as well because it does some nice damage. It even can, out of stealth, it can apply some nice days, and it's really, really strong because of that. And then typically you play it with a sword dagger and you get access to your Lassoner Strike, which is really good because it's a boon steal, it does some nice unblockable damage, and it's also an evade. So it's really overloaded how good sword dagger in that sense is. So sword is a very good PvP world versus world weapon. In PvE, I would say it's more of a utility weapon because it has some nice power-based damage from Cleave. It has 3 targets, so it's a little bit better than dagger. And I would say because of that, it makes sense to play at some point, but it's not used in a lot of meta builds for that reason. It's a power-based weapon, and dagger is just better in that case. Then we have Pistol Whip. It's a very classical skill. A lot of PvP builds used it back then because it had some nice stun setup at the beginning, and then you get some nice damage. Previously, it was also evading. Nowadays, it doesn't do that anymore, so it's not that useful in PvP anymore. And for that reason, it's also not that crazy in PvE because you don't play sword pistol anymore, because sword pistol would be a power setup. And at this point, you probably would rather use a dagger or something. But I think the design is very fun. If they would give back evade, I think it would be back in the meta in PvP. It's actually really interesting. And we have X. X is interesting as well. It's a very crazy designed weapon. It's one of the craziest Soto weapons for sure. If you use the 1 or 2 skill, you actually leave behind X's on the ground. And those X's you can then return with your 3 skill. And depending on what weapon you actually use, they will actually deal power damage or condi damage, and it's actually really, really strong how much damage they do. And this is a very crazy weapon. They nerfed it just now, and it's actually still very good, I would say, in competitive modes, that is. In PvE, I think it's worthwhile to use, but it's a little bit, you have to have some brain power. You can't just always use it all the time, because if you move, then sometimes it doesn't hit it, because the axes travel back to you in a direct way. So if the boss is not standing there or the mobs, then they actually don't deal that much damage. So it's really important that you use the teleports here and the 3 skills very wisely. And it's just overall, I think it's a really nice designed weapon. It's a little bit complex and somewhat hard to counterplay in PvP and World vs. World. That's why they nerfed the damage. But you can play it as a power and condi weapon, depending on what kind of weapon setup you have. I think that's a really cool thing. I like that. So with pistol, you get some nice emob, and it's more like a power-based weapon and just a lot of evades and really nice usefulness. When it comes to Offhand Dagger, you actually get access to another evade, but this time the immobilize sets up for torment. So you get actually quite nice combo potential there, because if the target can't move, the torment ticks harder, and if you get a lot of torment ticks from the returning access, you actually get some very crazy damage as well. So it does not really matter if you play power or condi, you can spike the enemy quite hard with X. So this is really interesting. I like the design. I think it's very unique and maybe a little bit too strong, but now it got nerfed, so I think it's fair. Then we have Dagger. Like I already said, it's a very clear power weapon. It's melee. It only has 2 targets, so it's not really good at cleave, but it's a really, really strong power-based weapon that also can be played as a condi weapon, because it actually applies condis as well. The 2 skill doesn't. The 2 skill is only used in power builds, but if you use the Dagger combo, you actually get a nice bleeding application while you evade as well. So Dagger is the condi build, but also can be played on a power build, because you can on a thief spam your weapon skills that are actually very useful on your build. So if you need condi, you spam the 3 skill. If you play power, you can, for example, spam the 2 skill, because they don't have a cooldown, they have initiative. So that means thief in that sense is very interesting, because you can have a weapon that is hybrid and you just use the power based or the condi based scaling depending on your build. And that's the same for Dagger. The order tech is really strong. Doesn't matter if you're power or condi, they just apply a lot of damage. And the backstab is really strong in a power build, because if you're stealth and you hit that on a target, it hits really, really hard. I would say in PvP, it's more used for the main hand weapon. In competitive modes, I think the pistol offhand is a little bit better, because you get unblockable teleport and just some nice damage and blind. This is a power-based weapon then. And in PvE, I think you can use typically Dagger in a power or condi build. It's not like pistol is that important. You just use the really nice condi or power-based scaling skills depending on the build that you have. So it's really, really good there. I think it's a very cool design. I think Dagger is one of the best weapon designs in the core set of Thief, just because it's so flexible and just very, very fitting to the class. I like it a lot. Pistol is interesting. Pistol is not very useful in a lot of builds. It's the same as Dagger. It's like a ranged Dagger, but pistol is like a little bit power crept, I would say. X is doing the same job and is maybe a little bit better at it, especially in the PvP game modes. But I think that there's a lot of condi application there, and it does some nice damage. But it's more used for the unload skill. So if you're playing pistol, it's definitely a power build, because you get access to unload. And I already made a build guide about the unload thief, where you just press this button and then you get 30k DPS. It's insane. It's really, really good. This build is extremely fun in PvE, but in competitive modes, it's sadly not working that well. So yeah, I think the weapon is okay, but it's not crazy there. And you can play it with a Dagger offhand to actually get Repeater. And Repeater is a nice skill as well. And you get some shadow stepping, but I feel like it's more of a meme build. It's not a really crazy broken build for that matter. X is a little bit more what it wants to be, so to say. And I feel like overall pistol design is again very interesting, because it has this hybrid approach between being power and condi, and depending on what weapon skills you actually use and weapon offense to make it work. I feel like that's a very nice thing. I think the condi aspect of the weapon should be maybe looked at and be some kind of a little bit more unique to X. I think they are too close to each other to actually be interesting, but I feel like it's okay. It's a weapon. And then we have Scepter as the last main hand weapon. Scepter is really interesting. You can see it doesn't even fit the screen how much, let's say, they want to tell you about this weapon skill. So you can target an ally, or you can target an enemy with your one skill, and depending on that, you apply a lot of condi damage on that enemy, or a lot of barrier and just useful heals, and it's very good, I would say. For that matter, I think the Thief Scepter is a very fun weapon. It's a nice support weapon. and you can play it as a hybrid weapon. And I think it's very good how much difference is built. You can make that work. You can go full heal, you can go hybrid, you can go full DPS, but it's not a power weapon. That's the only thing it's not. So I feel like Scepter is in a very good spot. It's a very cool weapon. It depends how you gear it to make it work. You can again use the 2 skill in a support way, but it's also used in competitive modes for the blast finisher to get stealth access. It's also very good for the healing and protection, and I mean the barrier, it's really, really good. So with the Caracosa relic, it's actually insane. This heals a lot and gives barrier and protection. It's really overloaded. It's a really good weapon. This is one of the best weapons for Thief if you play some kind of supportive spec, definitely. And then you have the Scepter pistol, which has Endless Night. It's a very good skill. It's used in healing builds, but it's also used in competitive modes because it's an so to say, reflectable skill that gives you access to an Immobilize and does some crazy nice slow and torment after that. That means that you are really annoying your enemy if you hit them with it. And it's also helping your allies with Vigor and Barrier and Reach. And so it's really, really good in all game modes for that reason. And then we have the very aggressive Twilight combo skill, which is so to say, if you go more the aggressive route, you don't really want to help your allies, you just want to kill the enemies, then you use that. With the projectile, you get Chill, Poison, and Torment, and that's really, really strong. It hits actually quite hard with power as well. That's the only skill on this that hits actually quite hard with power. But I would say it's still mostly a Condi weapon. It's very useful in Condi Thieves in PvE, but also in competitive modes. However, it would be a little bit overshadowed by Endless Night because this is not reflectable and this one is. So oftentimes the reflect is a little bit annoying to deal with this, but I would say it's still a very fun designed weapon. I really like Scepter. I think it's one of the best weapons on Thieves. It's really fitting, especially to Specter, of course, but even other builds can make use out of it. And now let's talk quickly about the offhand weapons. There are not that many actually. So let's start with Dagger Offhand. Dagger Offhand is like a really, again, like on the or power-based weapon. So the offhand does some nice power damage and on the damage with the 3-4 skill. It's just some nice AoE. It's not that crazy good. You wouldn't spam it most of the time, but it's some nice utility. And then the 5 skill is more like the bread and butter. Gives you access to stealth if you hadn't hit an enemy and gives some crazy nice damage. This is a power weapon skill, so to say, and it sets up for the backstep after that if you're playing Dagger. So I feel like it's more supposed to be played with a dagger, but it can also be played with all the other weapons because it's such a nice setup for just stealth and then the stealth attack after that. It's really, really good. And I would say it's in PvE very, very good because you can actually set it up very easily. But in competitive modes, it was very good back then. Nowadays, it's not really used for the offhand dagger most of the time. It's more used for getting access to the really good skills. For example, like the Larcenous Strike, which you need the dagger in. Even though the stealth can be nice in some situations. But I feel like it's a very cool weapon. It got maybe a little bit power crept by the two-handed weapons. But I feel like it's still very good. I like it a lot. And then we have Pistol Offhand. It's already the last weapon. So Pistol Offhand is mostly used for the utility of it. It has some nice CC in it, and it has some unblockable smoke fields, so you can just create it and then you can stealth your allies or you can jump through and stealth yourself, and it has some nice blind field. But it's just utility. And this is really good because you can use an aggressive mainhand weapon with the utility of pistol. You can combine it in a Condi build, in a power build, in a support build, wherever. It's always good. So pistol is really strong in the offhand. And like I said, it has some really nice skills as well with the mainhand weapons. As I would say the most notable ones are Unload for PvE, but also Dagger with the Heartseeker through the smoke field which will generate stealth. So I think that's a very competitive setup. It's really, really good. And in PvE, I think you'd mostly take it also for the headshot, especially on Scepter, where you of course use it to get the Endless Night skill, but you can also use it to just get very nice CC damage. So I think the pistol is a very good spot. I really like it. I think it's very unique. I think the black pattern offhand world versus world is a little bit over the top, but it's still, I like it a lot in all game modes for that matter. And there we are already through. I hope you enjoyed this quick discussion. Let me know your take in the comments. I would be really interested if you have any different opinions on the thief weapons. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. And if you want to see more videos of this type, be sure to subscribe. And now, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch, and Patreon. I really appreciate your support. And I hope to see you all in the next video.